tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please remember to drop a sub, drop a like, and leave your thoughts down below in the comments. With that, we will see you guys in the podcast. Welcome, bro. It's been a bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a long time coming, but I've known about you from I'll call him Young Dino for this for a bit. Some of the beats and the songs that y'all have made together have been super good. So figured, he said you were a good conversationalist, had a cool story. It's like let's get him on, and here you are. Welcome.
I'm here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So for those who don't know, are you a producer, audio engineer? What's the all of the above? Anything and everything?
Pretty much. I try to do everything. So I produce, engineer, record, rap, sing, write. Just kind of like try to do everything. Anything that I, don't really know, I try to learn. Just because I like to be resourceful and kind of like, I don't like to depend on people too much. Just because I feel like, sometimes, people aren't going to be there when you're like having a breakthrough on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the difference between an audio engineer and like a producer and like those sort, like the, not necessarily like rapper, singer, whatever, but like the ones in the studio making, whether you're making a beat or doing the rest of it, like what are the different like sort of roles that are in there? Because I've heard audio engineer before, you hear producer before, you hear producer with respect to like TV and movies as well. Like what's the difference between those?
Well, for producer, pretty much like in music, it's like the person who makes the music. So it's like the person who comes up with the ideas and kind of like, lays it down, where an audio engineer is more like someone who like records the vocals and kind of like mixes them, So that's kind of like the difference. So it's producer, someone who makes it, and engineer is someone who kind of like tinkers with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much the difference. But yeah, no, I definitely get that. At first, I was kind of like, I'd be talking like, oh, I want to be a producer or whatever. I want to be an audio engineer, not really even knowing what those were or what the difference was. I'm like, really thought they were the same thing. I just say producer for all of it, honestly.
Well, if you're doing all of it, I guess you're producing as well. Well, we were talking beforehand. So, so what got you into music generally? Is music something that you always had a passion for? Because to go to school for it, which we'll get into in a bit, to go to school for it, you kind of got to have like, was that when you were like leaving high school, you're like, this is the only school I want to go to? Or did you want to do music already? Like, how'd you get into it? Like, what made you be like, you know what, I'm going to do this? Because there's a lot of people that like music, but they don't either have the ear for it or the want to do that, or the like people that will be through high school be like, oh, I love music, and then they'll just go off and do their regular stuff. But you were like, no, I want to be in music for my career.
Yeah, so basically like I like kind of grew up like knowing that I wanted to do something like different. Like I knew that I didn't want to like have like a regular 9 to 5, like just from a young age. Like I was always kind of like dreaming really big, and like so like at one point, I wanted to be like an actor, I wanted to be like a football player, like I wanted to like do things that were like very like out there. And so it took a while. At first I was like really into sports, and I played travel soccer for a while. And that was cool. Like I really did like love it, but I wouldn't say it was like my passion. Like it's not like I really was like thinking like I really wanted to play football. My dad wouldn't let me. So soccer was kind of like, the hand-me-down option. So but then basically like when I was around 15 or 16, like my uncle passed away from a drug overdose, and he was like the only kind of like one of the only musical kind of like sources like in my family. And I remember I tried to pick up guitar a couple of times because of him. But like I would go to lessons and stuff, but I couldn't learn, like for sure. Like I wasn't there. Like I like the idea of learning it, but I didn't like actually like want to take the time and like get to learn it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would go to these lessons and pretty much just like waste my dad's money. Like, you know what I mean? Like pretty much just going and watching him play and then not practicing, going back, doing the same thing over and over and over. And so eventually I just kind of like put the guitar down. But when he passed away, like I just remember I was like at the funeral and he had like his guitar, like 'cause that was like one of the like things that people remembered him by. And I just saw it and I was like, yo, like it kind of just like set up like a desire in my soul to like just like learn. Like I was just like, I just want to learn this. So I like went home and had like my sister had like a like this pink guitar. And I remember I whipped that thing out and tuned it up and just like started like watching videos on YouTube, like just learning how to play pop songs and like learning chords and stuff like that. And I just like remember I was like playing to like my fingers bled, like I just couldn't get enough of it. And I guess that's really when it started. But I always had like a love for music. I always like branched out and I would listen to all sorts of music. My dad never like, really liked me to listen to and stuff like that. Like I was listening to Lil Wayne and Drake and I was like a youngin, like 11, 12, like sneak it and listen on Pandora. Like so I've always had like a love for music and all different types of music. Like even to this day, like that's one thing I can say like from the start was just like the interest was like through like I just know so many people who only listen to like certain types of music and that's pretty much all they listen to. Like I just like to get it all in and kind of like take from all of it. So but yeah, it's a little glimpse I guess of kind of how I got started into it. But
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes
I really
sense.
didn't start till 16, which is I wish I really would have started earlier because I had the potential and I had like I kind of knew and I wanted to be a rapper at 11. I remember I told my dad, but he was like, "No." Like he was like, "Nah." I was like, "Well, what if I don't smoke weed? Like, would that make it better?" And he was like, "No." But yeah, they kind of discouraged it, and so I kind of like put it off. And then I like wrote one like a rap when I was like 12, and but my mom found it, and I was talking about like signing a girl's titties or something in it, and yeah, she reprimanded me for that one. So I kind of was like, maybe I should take it. It's like I think it's time for me to retire for a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much how I got started.
Yeah, that's
Um,
wild, dude. Like I had the same guitar thing as you did. It's like I like the idea of knowing how to play, and then it's
mhm.
like once you actually pick it up and you realize like it's hard to actually be good at
Yeah,
it. It's like I could play like two songs, not even two songs, like the chorus of two songs, and that was it. I was like, nah, I don't care about this enough to continue to do it. Then the same thing with the variety of music. I've been the same way, like listen to stuff that
Mhm.
other people don't even know exist. I haven't been in like I haven't listened to the radio and
All right.
I don't even know. Like I just got playlists on like YouTube or Spotify that have like or they don't make any sense to anyone else. So like when other people are like,
Yeah,
"Hey, who wants to like DJ?" is like, "No, not me." I because my shit makes no sense and I've got random things in there and it'll mess the vibe up of whatever we're doing. So I was like, "No, not not me ever."
that's
Um,
fair. Yeah, no, I feel that.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'll get up there. Like usually, if I like, I'm good at DJing, but like I'll never put a playlist on because no one would ever mess with my playlist. Like I'd have to go. Like I'll be searching for songs in the moment. Like you know what I mean? I'll be like, all
yeah,
right, I
yeah.
got this
Me too.
vibe.
It's
But
like no,
playlist, no.
like I go down my playlist. I was like, nope, this next one can't be played right now. It's like this is not the vibe. And like switch it up and do the next one. Um, well, yeah, dude, that's nuts. Okay, so then you're in high school and you've gone to Berkeley. And for those listening, this is not the Berkeley in California, but Berkeley in Boston. This is strictly music school.
Yeah, it's strictly music. It's I mean, they do have like because they require you to at least like get your like literature
Hmm.
degree. So
So
like
did you apply to other music schools as well, or was this the only one? Or how's what's
I
the
was like,
application process like for a music school like that?
um, you just go on there, kind of like I don't even honestly remember applying too much, but I think I just went on. You had to pay like $150 or something like that, um, and for the application, and then I think, I want to say you sent like two songs in or something of you
Hmm.
playing, or two videos of you playing, and like maybe like answered some questions, um, and then they would basically pick on deciding on that. I think I don't even know. Maybe the videos weren't involved. I don't remember. But then you would go and find one of the like because they would have like little like camps set up where they would have auditions like all over the world, pretty much like. So the one that happened to be closest to me was like Baltimore. So I went up to Baltimore, stayed overnight in a hotel, and then went to like this little like music place in Baltimore, and they had auditions there. So I had to go, and then we had like an interview. So they interviewed me, um, asking me just kind of how I got started in music, what I want to do with music, blah blah blah. And then I went in, and they basically like almost tested me. Like they like, basically were like giving me sheet music, seeing if I could
Mhm.
read it. Like they were like asking me to read, like play chords. Then
Could
I'd
you
have
read
to
by
try to
then?
improv. No, I couldn't read. I everything I learned was from scratch. So I taught myself pretty much everything that I knew. So I never cared to really learn how to read like that. Um, so but yeah, no, so they would do that and then improvisation, and then I'd play like a perform like a practiced piece is what they
Hmm.
call it. So yeah, you pretty much like learn a song as perfect as possible and then go and perform it for them, and then they would hit you back, send you some letter saying whether you got in or not. So yeah, some a little like that,
Yeah,
with some
that's
anxiety thrown
interesting.
in.
'Cause I had a friend of mine from high school. His name is also Eric, but he's a band director now at a high school, and he went the total like both music, you and him, but polar opposite. Because so we were both in band, but he went the total opposite way of going like the classical route, and that's so heavy in the sheet, like the reading music and the interpretation of like different musical pieces from like Beethoven and shit like that. That is weird how wide the spectrum of music really spans. Like he played bassoon. It's
Oh word.
like something that you never would have thought doing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's all in the same like family of music. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's so weird to me to talk to different like somebody like you or somebody like Brandon and then somebody like Eric. It's like all of you are pursuing the same things, but in totally different ways.
Yeah. Definitely. It's that's the thing about music that's cool. Is like there's so many different like areas for it. You know what I mean? Like even if you're not making it, like there's so many things connected to it that like still like people who are very passionate but maybe don't have the natural talent for it or never really just thought to pursue it. Like, there's like business side of it and being like a manager and being like a venue, like, or being a setup crew or something like that. It's cool like how there's just so many different like things. And there's like, just the different genres where it's like if some people want to rap and perform, some people want to be in like an orchestra, like play for like movies and all that stuff. It's like it's just crazy, like how you know, and it's always been interesting to me. And I like it was cool because I got to like learn of a couple people, like because there it was just like everybody would be playing, like you don't know who you'd run into, like there'd be a freaking accordion player like you'd meet in an elevator or something, like, and you'd be
That's
like,
wild.
I don't think I've ever known an accordion player before. Like, it's like almost like it's a privilege, you know what I mean? Because there's not too many accordion players. When you meet someone who plays guitar, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you play guitar. Like, I know 500 people play guitar. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like people who play like that. It's like, yo, how do you even get into that? Like, how did you stumble across your first bassoon? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it's very interesting. I always find it like interesting. I think that's how I counted my popularity is how many like, off like how many what do you call it, like not like primary instrument people do, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like that's how you really know, you know what I mean, so
Yeah, for sure. That's what the accordion player. That's funny. But yeah, you also get like in that, then you get like cool crossovers, like when Lil Wayne tried like did rock, like that was
yeah,
cool.
right,
Or like when Ed Sheeran had Travis Scott on one of his songs, like those two should never really cross. But when they do
no,
and it
literally,
works, it's like that's awesome. So
yeah,
those are like
it's
my
crazy.
or like you hear all these talented like cover bands doing different things on YouTube. Like guys will put out metal versions of Disney songs. Like
Yeah,
that
right,
like you think that shouldn't work, but it works. Like all sorts of wild stuff. It's really cool. You can deep dive like um my fiance will be like, "Where do you find all these things?" And I was like, "I don't really know. I'll be on YouTube for 2 hours
hmm,
and end up like at a metal cover of Let It Go from Frozen, like by accident."
yeah,
It's like,
literally. How did I get here? It's like two in
yeah,
the morning.
yeah, down the rabbit hole. Okay, so you're at
Yeah.
Berkeley and you're meeting all these people, and so you kind of touched on the question that I was going to ask next. But so it was anyone and everyone music. So it was like engineers, performing artists, like singer, songwriter, like anyone and everyone there.
Yeah, they're all there. And some people would even start off as something else. Like it's so common, especially there, to like be like on a certain path, or like know someone who's on a certain path, and like they'll switch up in an instant. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like they'll go next semester, just completely change everything they wanted to do, just because they had like some sort of maybe studio session experience, or like go to some sort of like house show or a calf show or whatever. Like, and it will just like change, and they're like, I want to start doing this, or they'll meet somebody or whatever. So it's pretty crazy, like how people can kind of just change. And it's cool too, because like it's they kind of equipped you when you go in. That's the one thing that is really cool, is like when you go in, it's kind of like they make you learn all the basics of everything. So even if you go in and you're a songwriter and you've never produced in your life, you at least have to take one class that is basically where you're going to have to learn how to use a recording software. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've never done it in your life, even if you're going to want to be in the orchestra, like we were saying before, like they make everybody take this mandatory class called like MTech, I think it's called. And like you basically, learn how to record yourself, because, they think that's important for everybody. Um, so but stuff like that. So anyway, it's like almost like you almost have that foundational kind of like thing when you get in there after the first, second semester. And then at that point, it's like, yeah, you might choose something, but you're like, oh yeah, like I kind of remember back to, first semester, second semester, when they made me take that class. And low key, that's actually like, I really enjoyed that, and maybe
Hmm.
I want to go with that, instead of whatever it was that they were doing before. So,
So on the flip side, right, with the orchestra people learning like how studio works, did you have the studio people like learning like orchestra stuff as well? Like I feel
no,
like,
not really. Uh, so
or not the
everyone,
instruments necessarily, but like musical theory, I guess would probably be the one, or like
oh yeah,
musical
definitely.
history.
Everyone had to learn music theory. The one thing is, to get into Berkeley, you have to know an instrument. So if you were the best producer in the world, but you didn't play any instruments, like you'd be screwed pretty much.
Oof.
Like you have to go in, and but now they made it actually. So a lot of producers will do, like, you've seen the beat pads, right? That people be
Hmm.
like, yeah. So now they actually, like, I think it was like maybe the second year I was there, they actually made that a primary instrument now. So you can actually audition and basically play the little keypads and like make a beat or whatever, like for, I forgot what they call it, but it's like performance
Yeah.
something, live performance or something. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was like, man, I wish I could have done that. That'd be cool.
I mean, you got in,
Imagine.
so it's all good.
No, there's some people I knew too that actually, like, when they were trying to get in, they didn't know an instrument, and they were producers, but they wanted to go there so bad that they literally went out of their way to learn an instrument. Like, so it's just like kind of crazy, like, that they kind of changed that up, because there's certain people who literally like had to learn an instrument just to
Hmm.
go there so that they could do their producing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's another skill. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm not super involved in music now from the way that you are, but I hadn't have, I feel like, enough friends or people involved in different aspects of it to kind of like for example, I know this guy named Matt Muling. He's a guitarist in Austin, Texas, and he gets gigs all the time. But like, he's got friends that like know multiple instruments or know how to do multiple things, and it just like makes it more fun when they're making music. And so I feel like even like if you're a producer, you can to know like guitar, for instance, you can test out different chords like or different because the notes are the same even though it's a computer or not a computer, like
Yeah.
the notes are still the same, so like you can test different stuff out. I don't know, I feel like it'd be
Yeah.
useful.
No, I mean, I'm definitely the type of person who thinks that knowledge is power. I think
Yeah.
that you can never learn enough, and I feel like people always like focus on one thing. So personally, for me, I'm a learner. Like, but at the same time, it's just like that is a lot to go through, especially if you know what your passion is. Like, I'm never gonna force anybody to, like, if you're like, oh, all I want to do is produce and like work in the studio and like, I know people who can play guitar or whatever. Like it just seems like a lot to go through. So it was kind of just like, I don't know, a slap in the face of those people, I guess. Especially because once you do get in there, you actually have to take ensemble for 4 semesters where you have to go basically and like play with the band with your primary instrument. So
Yeah.
it's like if you do want to produce or whatever, it's like now it's like you have like well now it's different. But before it's like you had to basically go to some like dumb like guitar or drum ensemble that literally it's like I don't even want to be playing like this instrument like this like and it's like a weekly thing you have to practice like it's a lot of practice because it's like
Yeah.
you're pulling on these full like performances that are like 5 or 6 songs at the end of the semester that are supposed to be like basically perfect like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I do think it's a better thing though. I think that people should learn at least an instrument if you're in music, but at the same time, I'm not gonna press anybody about
No,
it.
for sure. I just feel like it would be helpful, like
That's
generally.
what I'm saying. Definitely, I agree with you on that.
Um, and also the practicing for the ensemble pieces is nuts. Like even in so like Eric, the band director, dude, even in high school, dude was practicing every day. Like I was like, bro, do something else. But no,
Literally,
he's so good. He was like all state all the time. Like now, obviously, he's like he knows like 5 instruments, and he's a high school band director, and it's like that's what he loves to do. But to get to that point where you're that good, you have to put in that much time. That's why I think one of the things I've realized through the podcast, but just generally is like the people who are really good at like really really good put in so much time
yeah.
and just learning the tricks of the trade and practicing and talking to different people, even just having like this conversation. Like if you look at my first couple episodes, dude, I was probably garbage. Like having the conversation, knowing when to speed the conversation up, knowing when to switch topics, when to slow it down, when to like push on something, when to back off on something else. Like
Yeah.
it's a skill set in itself. And like I didn't realize that until I was doing this, but now I've been doing it for 2. And again, it's like the time that's put in. It's like
Yeah.
it's
You
nuts.
you get you get out what you put in.
Yeah, for sure. And the
Perfect.
same with the editing. Like initially I was super lazy with it. I mean, I'm still not like a great editor by any stretch of the imagination, but like so I've been making soccer videos also. And so testing
Mhm.
out different effects and like editing different things and like speeding stuff up and slowing it down and like putting in different things. So like the more you learn with that sort of thing, the easier it is to learn new things as well, because it gives you a greater foundation to like build off. So I feel like musically it's the same. Like once you learn like bassoon and then you learn oboe, for instance, or like trumpet and then French horn and then like the brass
Mhm.
instruments, like then it's easier to pick. Like once you know one, it's easier to
Yeah,
pick up the other
definitely.
ones. So
100%. Yeah, no, that's what they say. They say it's like languages. Like they say, like
mhm.
the more languages you learn, like the easier it's going to be when you learn a new language. So it's like they say it's the same with instruments, where it's like once you learn one instrument, it's easy to. So that's why I was kind of like I don't even like I remember I learned guitar, and that was very very crazy time. I was just kind of like going through it, and then after that, I kind of started teaching myself piano,
Mm,
and then after that, like I know bass now, I know ukulele, like uh I know a little bit of drums, stuff like that, but like the last three, like I don't even remember really learning like that. Like even piano is like a little faint memory, but like really like the hardest one I remember is the guitar. But no, I'm not like crazy great at any of those instruments either. But just like I just remember like it just helped me like kind of visualize. But if anyone was trying to get into music, I would say definitely start with the piano because that's the easiest one to kind of like wrap your head around because the
yeah,
notes are pretty straightforward. Where a guitar is like it's all scattered and like it's hard to memorize like all the notes on that. But but yeah,
yeah. And piano, I feel like has like the largest range of like everything is right in an order, like you said, and it's got the biggest like range of musical. Like you can play the most stuff on it. I feel like
yeah.
maybe
'Cause
that or
you have both.
guitar,
I mean,
but
you have both your hands, so it's like you can play if you're that good. I mean, if you can play with both your hands like independently, like you can go pretty crazy. I've definitely seen some people mess up a
yeah,
piano before.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so you're so then you left Berkeley
Mhm.
and while you were there, did you were taking like the basic classes, you're doing the ensemble ones and the music theory and all the rest. Had
Yeah.
you already had it in your mind that you wanted to do like engineering and production at that point? Or did something,
Um,
or was there a class there that made it like this is the what I want to do rather than like write or the other stuff?
so I started off with just instruments, and I really wasn't really like it wasn't something I knew from the get-go when I first started doing music, but I think it was like my senior year or something. I took a gap year after I graduated.
Hmm.
I think it was my senior year, and I like remember I had like a mini iPad. Like I never had like a computer, at least a computer that could run like DAWs and stuff. But I just remember I was listening to like a lot of like Frank Ocean, and like I was kind of that's when I really started expanding like my music taste out again in like a more musical sense. Because before I just kind of like what I liked, you know what I mean? And I didn't really know why I liked it. Like I kind of was just like, oh yeah, it's like the music that I just like. And then, but once you like start making music and like that becomes like kind of like your entire life, you start like when you listen to music again after that point, it's like you hear it differently. So it's like I almost was like getting re-exposed, not only to new artists but old artists in a new way. But as I was going through, like I remember I started off and I just wanted to sing pop songs like Ed Sheeran, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, because at that point I was really listening to a lot of John Mayer. John Mayer was the first like really big influence from like my musical like the musical side of my mind, like
Hmm.
when it came to like making music, like um so but so yeah, he was a guitar player, so I wanted to be a guitar player, or I wanted to, kind of learn how to shred a little bit, whatever, make pop songs and whatnot. Ed Sheeran, he started rapping in his songs, so that's when I started reintroducing rap again, and started putting rapping in my songs and stuff like that. And then once I started getting to like 21 Pilots, that's like kind of when I changed and started doing more like rap sort of stuff and like alternative sort of stuff. And I knew I had to basically like um at that point it was like, you know, it was beyond guitar. You know what I mean? Like it was because Ed Sheeran, most of this stuff is like very guitar oriented.
Hmm.
John Mayer, a lot of his stuff is very guitar oriented. So, but at that point, it was like guitar couldn't express what I wanted to make anymore. So I remember I didn't have a computer, so I remember I had my mom's like mini iPad, and Apple products automatically come with GarageBand, which is like
Yep.
a recording software. Uh, which I'm sure you already knew that, but basically I would I got on there and I just kind of like made like a little like EP, and I like just did like started recording like my guitar and stuff. I started recording my vocals and all this stuff and putting it together. And so I think it was at that point where I was kind of like, all right, like this is really cool. And if I can do something like this on like a mini iPad, like and it wasn't like a crazy thing. I think it was very experimental. It was definitely like and the mix things off and all that stuff. But like creatively, I feel like it was like even stuff that I feel like for some reason I don't even have that same creativity like now. Where back then it's like I didn't care, so it was like I'm gonna throw anything I want into it. If I think of something, I'm just gonna throw it into there, and I like kind of respect a little bit of that part. But yeah, literally, I think that's like kind of like when I really started gearing towards when I was like, I was like, guitar really can't like express what I'm trying to express anymore. And so I think it was at that point where I started kind of like being like, so that was the thing. They had a really good like what do you call it, like engineering or not engineering but like producing program and like learning like how to record and stuff like that at Berkeley. Like that was one of the main ones, main majors there. And I think that's like kind of what like convinced me. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I do want to do this. So yeah, to give a shortened answer, right before I went, like that's kind of what really got me into wanting to go, is because of the recording program and stuff like that. But then I kind of got a sad disappointment when I realized that it was going to take me at least 2 years or something before I could like really get enrolled into one of those programs, because I had to take all the core classes first and
Hmm.
get all my credits up. So, but yeah,
Yeah. I
kind
did
of
the
running
same
away there.
thing
But
with GarageBand as well.
oh yeah,
Yeah. I made a
you got some
couple like,
music?
yeah, I had like two
Oh
things.
shoot,
I don't
hey
know.
bro, you gotta send it to me, bro.
I don't know where they are now.
You
Actually,
want to play it right now? Play it on the podcast.
it would take too long to find it.
That's
Maybe I
fair.
know where one is. Yeah, I could send it to you afterwards, maybe.
All right, send it to me.
Um, that was like back in high school. I was like experimenting with different things because there were like several beats that like or songs that I liked a lot, and I was like, I like this part of this one, and I like that part of that one, and I like the other part of this other one. I was like, let me see if I can like put all of them together, like figure it out, and then I ended up
Literally.
making like a little like I don't know, it's like a minute or a minute and a half, and it took me oh god, like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like,
Yeah.
I spent 3 weeks to put out this like, or not even put out, but like to make this minute that is not even good. I was like, this is, it's one of those
Hey,
things.
bro.
So I'm similar like in that way with like people are like, oh, you should go into coding. And it's like I like the idea of it, but then when you have to
Yeah.
go through 500 lines of code to find one space that broke the code, it's like I don't
Yeah.
have the patience for that
I
because
don't
it's
either.
different, you know. Like this, like I don't know, but yeah, I definitely it's interesting to me, but it was one of those things where I was like, do I don't like this enough at the time to put in the time to learn it to actually get good at it to then like enjoy it.
Yeah.
So because I was playing soccer for like two teams at the time, and I was like, I like soccer more. And like that's what I was
Yeah.
doing. I still do
I
that.
mean,
Still,
listen,
a lot of my
coding
time goes to
is,
soccer.
anytime I see anyone coding, my brain explodes. Like,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how y'all be looking at that. That's crazy stuff.
I don't know either. I have friends that are coders. Like one is making his own video game. It's actually like quite good at the minute. It's like a Pokemon sort of remake, and he's got like a skeleton of the whole game built out. Like you can play it, and that's a bit nutty to be honest, because he's been working on it for like years. Um, like what patience for that? Like to do that for years is like it's bonkers. But yeah. So then, okay, so you guys, it would take you like a long ass time to get through all the production programs at Berkeley. And is that plus like when we were talking about before? Is that plus the other like personal stuff you had going on? You're like, I'm gonna leave here.
Um,
Was there another
yeah.
like how was that decision made? Because when you, at least for me personally, when I'm in a situation like I'm in a college or I'm in a like a season with a team or I'm in a job, like to like quit or to move or to change like that drastically. I feel like some people I know can just do it, but for me, it takes a lot of like something really has to like happen for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna change this. So how did that work for you?
Um, I guess I've I'm just kind of like I am kind of like that person. And it sounds kind of bad, but like, I'm the kind of person that's like, I could switch up in an instant. You know what I
It's not
mean?
bad,
Like,
just different.
yeah, it's um I guess because I did I guess it kind of made me sound like a quitter, but like sometimes like, it's like, if I had the money, man, I swear to God, you'd be talking to me one day, and next day, I was in, some random place like Switzerland or something. Like I could literally just decide on a moment, oh, I'm gonna go do this, and I'd go do it. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't really matter. That's just kind of always how I've been. Like I always used to like carry a backpack on me with like
Mm-hmm.
some like just necessities of mine, just in case like anything were to happen, like if I needed to like run away or like, you know what I mean? I used to carry a backpack all the time. People are like, why do you have a backpack on? We're in a restaurant. I'm like, I don't know if there's a zombie apocalypse, like, or like, what if the cops just start chasing me? Like, what if they like, I'm like wanted for something I don't even know. Like, so I've always been ready to flip up on an instant, low key. So, but it was for that specific thing. It wasn't like an instant sort of thing. It was something I was kind of like considering, and like as more and more things started happening, and like I started just realizing more and more. Like I kind of was just like, yo, maybe this is just like I need to do this, because part of me did really want it to stay. Like I really did love it there. Like, um, I definitely feel like it's like home to me almost like this like it just feels like I was more in my element there. So it was definitely hard to leave, but at the same time, it was just like all these things were kind of just piling up, and I had to make a decision at that point. Um, and I just made the one that I felt like was the best for me at that point. And so it kind of just worked out. Uh,
If you were to
So
look
yeah,
back on it now, do you think you made the right decision?
I don't believe in mistakes.
That's fair. It's not necessarily, let me, just because it doesn't have to be a mistake, you know,
Yeah, it's a
like,
lesson.
yeah. Like, do you think, like, like, where do you put that? Like, do you wish you stayed? Are you
Yeah,
happy?
of
Not,
course. I mean, doesn't matter what you do, what decisions you make, at the end of the day, you're always gonna wonder about, well, what happened if you took that other path?
mhm.
No matter what, you're always gonna think about it sometimes and be like, you know what, maybe that was the better choice. And that's just life. That's just human nature. You know what I mean? So I just try not to think about it too much. Like,
Mm,
I'll definitely let myself reminisce, and be like, yo, those were good times, and like, and yeah, that'd be cool if I was there right now. But at the same time, this is where I'm at, and like, I just gotta be where I'm at right now and focus on where I'm trying to go, rather than where I could be at. Like, if I went a different way.
yeah, for sure.
So
There's something to be said for the being able to switch on a whim or whatever. It's not bad, it's just different. It's like the creative, like people who are creative like yourself have that. I feel like I found that more in people like you, that
well,
to pursue a passion, it's like,
I can see that.
whereas I'm less of a creative person, and so it takes me more time to like,
I would argue that.
yeah.
I think people are
S-
just different, and now
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot more common for people to be like, people are becoming more creative every day. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just from environment. So like, I think it's more susceptible now. I think there might have been like some sort of like cliche about like artists at a certain point, but I feel like now it's like so broad that you could literally find art like creative people doing like anything, or just being like any sort of way. You know what I mean?
Well,
Where
not necessarily creative like in a artist sense, but creative from like a psychology personality standpoint.
mm,
Um, it's like there's like a little bit of a difference between the two. Like there's creative people who aren't artists like at all. Um, like writers, musicians, artists obviously are at the top of the list, but like comedians, like all sorts of people like that who are pursuing like anything and everything in that way. It's less of a like a job, like a somebody who's in a certain job, and more like there's like five personality traits in psychology. Like the people who are on, I forget which exactly one is associated with creativeness, but the people who are high in that one tend to be more in that way rather than like an artist. People who are that way also tend to be artists because that's the sort of people that would want to do that. But it's less about like the occupation and more like the personality trait that's like going on up there. So
yeah, I feel what you mean.
yeah.
Definitely.
So
Um, Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just saying,
Okay, so now what have you been doing since, right? You've been making, obviously you've been making music with Nino, and then so you've been making beats and doing other stuff. Is this full time or you got another job? I think you said you were working at
um,
Target a bit, but so is that
yeah.
what
So
is
I'm just
there
kind of
a like
go ahead.
blueprint for you to turn this into full time?
Um, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of just, you know, because when you have like a primary source of income, and it's like definite, and it's like that's pretty much how you pay your bills. It's like that has to be like a certain level of priority at the end of the day, and that's your first job. So it's like that's like what you really got to get done. So it's really just about like kind of also not slowing down after kind of you get through that first job, like, because when you start work on your own sort of stuff and you're kind of trying to be your own boss, it's like you have to put in like twice the work, like,
Hmm.
especially in a shorter amount of time too. So it's, you know at this point the blueprint is just kind of like just try to do what I got to do in my off time to kind of like get myself to where I can slowly start weaning off. So, if that means, you know, making a ton of beats and selling them, or getting people in the studio to record, or trying to mix and master for people, or even like, getting some traction on my own music. Like, that's all kind of like my second job, you know. Um, and I know that at the end of the day, I just kind of have to grind and kind of just do what I've been doing, and kind of just, you know, put stuff out there and put myself out there in general and kind of learn from my mistakes and learn from just the progress, like, um, until I figure it out and something clicks, or I just kind of like hit my break. Because I think that once I can get into the state of, because the thing is that, like, I do have a lot of confidence, and I do, um, I think I have a lot of potential, and that's like the biggest thing I see in myself is potential. And I know that, like, obviously I can't put the time into the music the way I want to. So I know that that's also kind of altering me, but I know once I get to that point where I can kind of like, shift and start putting more energy into my music, that, that's going to be the easy part. And from there, I'll be able to go, because then I'll be putting, from what everyone tells me and saying, oh, like, your stuff's getting better, and I see the progress and all that stuff. It's like just from the amount of energy I'm putting in and hearing that feedback is like really, because I know that once I can, you know, make the difference with the energy, that I'm gonna get twice as much out of it. And like, it's just it's wherever you put your energy, that's where you're gonna come out at. And so it's just hard thing to do, trying to balance between those two. Because I'm someone who, like, especially when it's somewhere where it's like, you it's a very certain amount. It's like, you work this many hours, you get paid this. So
Yeah.
it's like, I catch myself all the time staying extra at work and trying to get overtime, because it's like, it's like, oh man, I don't want to give up. And it's like, but that's where I see the money. So it's like, that's where I be putting my energy, and I'll end up putting my energy there. And then when I get home, it's like all the energy that I should have saved up for that is like, part of it's gone now. And so it's like, then it's like, I'm kind of running on a downhill for the rest of the time when I'm working on my own stuff. And so that's the hardest thing about just like the balance. So I just know that I just gotta, as much as it's gonna be hard and a struggle, and I'm not gonna be able to live as comfortably, I know I just have to start like slowly cutting off, like, and just doing what I need to do at work, and
Hmm.
then putting more of my energy into my music now. And slowly I've been starting to see the change, and I've started to get more like traction on my own business. So that's been really cool. But yeah, it's pretty much just learn from your mistakes. Just it doesn't matter about like, that's something that I had to like teach myself, because at first, like, that's my thing. It was like everything had to be perfect, and everything had to be, oh, if I don't have a plan, then I can't put anything out, like all this stuff. And I would basically give myself so much anxiety and like overwhelm myself, where now I'm just like, you know what, like, at this point, it's really just put stuff out there, and if something doesn't work, then take note of it and then kind of just move on. But even if you're moving slanted, you're at least you're moving forward. You're not moving, or staying in place, or moving sideways. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
100%
Um,
for
um,
sure. Like
so go ahead.
the amount of time that like you guys spend working on your stuff when you're first starting, especially when you're first starting, like somebody's like, hey, you want to go out this weekend? It's like, no, I gotta work on my whatever.
Yeah,
And like those are the
yeah,
sacrifices that you gotta make if that's what you're trying to do.
yeah. My friends say I'm no fun.
Yeah. And then you see it on people's Snapchat stories or whatever next day. Like
Yeah,
fuck, I missed that one, but that's fine.
no, literally.
I had another thought. I forgot what it was.
Was it related,
Yeah.
or was it something?
Yeah, it was related. Well, it was kind of the just related to the working like the for like longer and harder than you otherwise would have to. But yeah, like when I do so I've got a soccer training thing on the side. It's like train like like help coach kids and like do other stuff. And
Mhm.
like sometimes those sacrifices got to be made. It's like when you turn that corner, like that's when things start to go. But then to your point about putting stuff out when it's not like perfect, it's like you also just have to try stuff. And
Yeah,
that's a bit difficult as well to understand that like there's a difference between half-assing it and like I feel like and putting out I don't know like for like I've put out episodes that I don't think are great, but I'm still gonna put
yeah,
them out.
yeah,
So it's not like I half-assed the episode. I don't know, like that the difference. There's a very subtle difference there that like I feel like is important. And just because maybe it's not like perfect or like you think it's perfect or it's not maybe your best doesn't mean that it can't be released. Because if you know, like for example, I don't know, like maybe your brain, like my brain wasn't all the way there, and I didn't have the best questions to ask, but like that version of me was the best that I had on that day, then that's okay. Because if you're always
Yeah,
comparing yourself to like, because you're a different version of you every day, like sometimes you're
yeah,
worse and sometimes you're better. So I feel like it's important to like you said, like the slant, as long as you're going on like the upward trajectory, generally, like there's going to be like
yeah,
dips and stuff. And then, but that's okay. It's like you got to keep grinding, got to keep like, it's a lot
yeah,
of work. I feel like I didn't realize how much work it was to actually like do something on your own.
yeah.
It's
That's the
so
thing.
much until you're in it.
You have to work twice as hard. It's really ridiculous. Like, but the thing is that the payout can be much better.
Huge.
But
Yeah.
it's just
You can
like
work for
people don't want to take
yourself.
that risk. That's the
Yeah.
thing. People don't want to take that risk. But but yeah, no, I think the other thing too is like literally like when you do put something out like for instance like the podcast or whatever, like or just like music, like it's like, you know, when you put that stuff out, it's like you you're learning from it. So it's like, yeah, maybe it was like this way a certain day, but when you like put that out, for one, you're pushing yourself into that, or it's like, okay, like there's just a certain time where it's like, you know, I can't hold on to this anymore. But also, it's like I'm a very big advocate. I've tried to like start being a big advocate of like sometimes like, you know, you might be working on something and it's like it definitely has potential, but for one, you're one person, so it's like just because you don't like it doesn't mean that there's not someone else who might like it, even if it's not
Hmm.
something. Maybe it could be someone else's favorite. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like you're just one person, and just because your feelings feel a certain way about it doesn't mean that someone else's feelings is going to change because of
Yeah.
that. And then also like, you know, it's like I'm a big advocate for like kind of like sometimes you can scratch stuff or like kind of like just move on from something. Like, yeah, maybe this wasn't like your strongest one, but it's like if you put that out, then like, you know, it's like, yeah, this maybe I could keep working on this and prolong it and keep putting it out, which sometimes it's necessary. Don't get me wrong, but like it's like um sometimes we'll just keep prolonging this thing that's basically there. Like it's there and it's like, you know, but it's there's a certain point where you're just being nitpicky and like, you know, sometimes it's like, all right, maybe this isn't like the fullest of quality and I could sit here and waste 3 more weeks on it, you know, and then put it out. But it's like almost putting all your eggs into one basket when you can just kind of put that out, let it be what it is, and then move on to the next thing. And that thing could
Yeah.
be the thing that's good. So it's like, you know,
You
that's
don't
what
want
I've
to
been trying to
stagnate.
just realize. Exactly. Because then it's like you put all this, you know, imagine if you put like, you know, you have $20 million and you put $20 million into a single and then you put it out and like for some reason majority of people don't mess with it. Then it's like you kind of
Yeah.
just waste all that money when, you know, maybe the next one. So it's like that's why you have to kind of like play even with each track and like, you know, just kind of put it out even if you don't think it's the best because
Hmm.
maybe people will just resonate with that one better. You
Yeah.
never know.
So
So
when you're making beats and people are like, "Oh, you're getting better," music is often so subjective. So like, how do you measure that? Like that you're getting better? Because I
um
know, for example, like when I talk to Dino, like he'll have some of his older songs that he likes more than some of his newer ones. And that doesn't mean that he's not getting better or that
yeah.
you're not getting better, but it's like you might put something out that you really like and like you're still getting better in terms of I don't know. Like what does that mean in this in like in
Well,
your world?
from the example you just gave about Dino, like for instance, like with that, it's like I think for one, just to put it out there, like you're never gonna appreciate anything in the moment as much as you're going to in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so to him, it's like maybe he doesn't like that stuff as much because he's trying to make it like his old, like it's kind of just like him comparing and contrasting, and he's comparing it to his old stuff. He's like, oh, this stuff's better, and that's kind of like, and I feel like that a lot of that does come from like just like how like fans are and media is. It's just like they always are trying to like judge whatever the new thing is, and everyone's always, oh, like I like the old stuff better. You know what I mean? Like that's just how
Yeah.
people are because they're nostalgic to that. Of course, they're gonna like it better. if you just heard a song for the first time today, you're not gonna like it the same as a song you've heard to listened to 100 billion times. That's literally how the radio works. It's like you just play it into your brain, so you start liking it, and you don't even realize you can hate the song at first, and then as soon as they play it a million times and it's on the radio all the time, you learn all the words, then you just start liking it for some reason.
Yeah.
Even if you do hate it, like you hate the idea of it, but for some reason you hate that it convinced you to start liking it for some reason. But so there's that. But I think I kind of just measure. It's like I know for me, it's like I measure my progress differently than people measure my progress.
Hmm.
So I measure my progress from I know just from like learning and doing all these different things, like what I think sounds the best.
Hmm.
Um and but then it's also like my whole goal, right, especially like right now, like maybe it'll be different along the line, but right now it's like you have to have at least some sort of virality, or like some sort of like mainstream, what do you call it, like trait in your music for it to go viral most of the time. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm trying, my whole goal is to try to make something that's unique but like familiar, because I think that that's so when I hear people say, oh, you're getting better, it's not that I feel like, oh, like, I think that they think that I'm getting better, and I'm like, oh yeah, like basically, yeah, you're right. Like basically now my stuff is mixed better, or it's this or that. My thing, that how I measure is, oh, I'm connecting with people more. The stuff that I'm making is is more familiar to them, and they are going to be more likely to hop on it because they understand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I kind of measure that when people say that. It's like, okay, like, because when you start making stuff, especially in the beginning, it's like you don't really care about like the media that much, or like what's mainstream. You just want to make stuff that you want to make. But then when
Yeah.
you realize, oh, you have to start making money and you want to do it for a living, it's like you have to start kind of compromising some of those things to be able to attract, you know what I mean? It's just the business. So so yeah, pretty much I think that that's kind of like, you know, it makes me, just when people say that, it makes me feel like I've taken the sound that is my sound, and I've made it so that other people can digest it. So I think
Mm.
that that's kind of like where I measure it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of
I
like
hadn't.
how I, it's not, but it's not me thinking, oh, like this is better than this or whatever it is. It just means that I think that, it's cool that other people like it more and are more, can understand it now. Whereas before, it's like if I made something that's really great, it's like obviously like that's great for me because I can listen to it. But when other people connect with it as well as you, like it's always gonna boost it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
That makes
haha,
sense. I hadn't thought about it like that before. That makes sense though. I want to ask you a bit about, do you know who KSI is?
I do.
So I'm just going to use him as an example for the concept that I'm going to throw at you, and I want to see what you think about it. So he was just doing content like FIFA content creation, whatever, and he's putting out music now. And it seems like, so obviously he's got a lot of money to throw into stuff, but it seems generally like the barriers to entry to the music industry are lower than they used to be. Like the equipment seems to be more accessible to people. Like the editing software, like the recording software, all these things seem to be more accessible. I was talking with somebody about it the other day. Like there's the amount of music that's good, like good quality production value that you can find is so much more now than it was even like 5 years ago, because you don't have to go through a recording studio anymore. Like people have their own
Yeah.
studios, and people, what are your thoughts on that? And then also kind of the effects on the music industry as a whole. Like, where do you think music is going from an industry perspective? Like in the next, I don't know, 5-10 years. Like, do you think like in terms of like radio seems to be dying off a bit, like the streaming platforms are up. What are your thoughts on just the industry as a whole and like where it's going?
Um, I think it's still definitely manipulated to a certain point, because everything used to be run by record labels. So like you
Hmm.
had to go through a record label, you had to get signed. That's what everyone was striving for, was to get signed. Where now it's like you can do it independently, and ultimately that's better for the artist. So I'm very embracive of artists and being independent. But obviously if someone comes to me with the right deal, like, I'm not gonna hate on that. And I think, everything has its place, but at the same time, it's like, I think that, um, everything just has its place. It depends on what you want to be. Like, if you want to be your own boss, or if you want to just seem like you're your own boss, and really you're just taking orders. So, I don't have anything against, like, like I said, record labels or anything like that. But I just think that it's like, and those are the ones that are going to be able to fund, and money just kind of pushes everything. So at the end of the day, like, they're always going to pretty much be at the top because, they're the ones people want money. Like, they just, so it's, if you have money to give, it's like, yeah, people are going to want to promote your stuff. People are going to, you know what I mean? So, but if you don't have that money, it just makes it harder. Even if the music's the best thing in the world, it's like you could offer like a playlist creator, or like hit up Spotify, or like ask for like a billboard and be like, hey, listen to this music, and like I guarantee you it's the best music of the world, and they can listen to it and like not want to put it up on like a display in Times Square because they don't have the money. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, that's kind of like, but I think it is cool that independent artists are becoming more, are just growing. You know what I mean? The breed is growing, which I think is definitely, I feel like, my preferred sort of thing. Because then people have, for one, they have full creativity, where it's
Hmm.
like with when you're talking mainstream and labels, it's like they're all trying to have a certain sound. Like, yeah, I think they're now trying to like branch out a bit more, like, because that's just how it rolls. But at the same time, it's like they're going to be, five or six writers in a room trying to like mold what it is that you're trying to do and how you're trying to craft. Where, I'm like, yo, like, this is something that somebody's making. Like, the way that they want to do it should be the way that it should be made. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why, unless you're doing a collab or something. But like, I think it's more raw and more like unique if it comes straight from the artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but when you're forcing it like that, where it's like you're forcing a sound, or like, oh, I think we should do this because that's like kind of the sound right now, then it's like, it's almost like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as pure. So
Yeah.
that's why I usually listen to more underground. I think that's probably why you do too. Like,
Hmm.
um, because it's, at the end of the day, like, it's kind of like the music that's on the radio is kind of just like molded to be,
It's all the
what
same. It
everybody
sounds the
likes,
same.
to appeal to
Yeah.
everybody, which is kind of like, it's annoying. I mean, I see why they do it, but at the same time, it's like, it's like, to me, it's just, I don't really like the music everybody be liking, because it's made to be a broad thing. So, and I like narrow things most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The radio is a bit interesting because it used to be like if the majority of people liked a certain sound, like they would try and play that sound to get all the listeners. But now there's so much choice. So you can just go to Spotify and like find Dino or
yeah,
find whoever. And it's super like everything is going that way. Like there's a comedian named Andrew Schultz. He signed a deal with one of the streaming platforms or whatever, and they said they were going to take some of his jokes out because they said it was like too edgy or whatever. So he bought it
yeah,
back from them, and
that's
now he's
pretty
going to
wild.
release it on his own like website
That's
and
dope.
charge like $15 like to get the like download link, and you can just watch the whole thing for forever. And um like
Smart.
comedy started to go that way, like music has started to go that way, because
Yeah, that's
also
the
the
thing.
like the acceleration of like cloud technology, basically the ability to store large files on your own Google Drive or whatever is huge now. Like that you can store so much music on your own like machine now that you don't have to have it on like a physical like hard copy like anymore. So I feel like that's helped as well. I don't know. I think a lot of things are going that way. I think a lot of people, well, I don't know. I'm a bit like my sample size of people who are enjoying that sort of thing is kind of confined to the people that are also in it, like yourself and Dino and like other people that are in this space trying to make it for themselves. Like we all enjoy that sort of thing, but I don't have a good
Yeah,
handle on like everyone else, for instance.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know. I think it'll continue to drive that way, but which would be good for
yeah,
us.
yeah. That definitely will be. Um, I think slowly like independence kind of taking over in a way, um, but yeah, no. I mean, as long as I think that people are like not are okay with not being the biggest in the world, I think
Mm,
I think that's all that matters. Because yeah, if you want to be the biggest in the world, you're gonna have to get signed. That's the only way it's gonna work.
yeah,
Um,
you're gonna have to
so
go
if you want to
Hollywood.
be Post Malone or Kendrick Lamar or Drake, you're gonna have to get signed. But I think people are just kind of like they just want to make their music, and I think that's the thing. Like with those people, I feel like they're more usually about the money than like at least half and half with the money and the
Hmm.
music. Where it's like I feel like now you're seeing more people who are just like they just really love the music, so they're just
Hmm.
making the music they want to make. They're staying away from signing because they just like to have control of it, and it's like their baby, and that's how it's if a mother's not protective of his baby, it's like it's kind of just like man,
Yeah,
so it just kind of
yeah,
speaks. So I mean, at the same time, people gotta get their bag. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Facts. No, of
it just
course.
depends on who you. It depends on who you want to be. It depends on who you want to be. Like, is it someone that do you stand for the integrity of your music, or is it someone do you just like the racks? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
I think there's enough of a middle ground for people that want to not deal with like managing stuff, and they have other people manage it for them. But
yeah,
like they like performing, for instance, like they like the performance aspect more than the actual like creation
yeah,
of the music. And so like they go on stage and it's easier for them to settle that stuff up if they've got a label behind them, like to help them
yeah,
set up the tour. Because there's that aspect as well where it's like I feel like it's really hard to get gigs if you're independent unless you're like before you're at a certain size. I don't know. Like I've seen people performing at like in basements that help at like house parties and stuff, like for $50. It's like you gotta
yeah,
start there for sure. But at a certain point, like to get on a lineup somewhere at like a music festival or whatever, I don't
yeah.
know. I
Most
don't
of the
know how
time, I
that
mean,
stuff works.
it just depends. I think you can get into it. It just depends on who's putting it on and if they mess with you or not. But like, if they know that people are gonna want to see you, I think that's really is the important thing. Like, I think, but I do see what you mean. Like, it is um, like I think it would be very rare. For instance, like I think probably festivals wouldn't be as hard, but like if you wanted to get like your own spot, like maybe at like you know, BET Awards or like the Grammys or something, I feel like those people definitely have to be. I don't know too many independent artists that be
No.
front stuff like that or like
Well, that's all
being
establishment
invited
stuff,
to
anyways.
certain
But
things. Yeah, but yeah, no, I definitely feel that. Um, yeah, man. I mean, and honestly, I'm not even against like if someone came to me with the right deal right now, I'll definitely sign it. Like hell yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's like I think that is yeah, I think that
but you
it
know what
can
the
be
right deal is, though. That's the thing.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Like you're not gonna
But
sign
people,
anything. Like you've got your principles and like what you want from what you want to do. So it's
yeah,
not just like a flash of like obviously you gotta get the bag, but like it's not just a flash of money. Then you're like you see dollar signs like Mr. Krabs and you're like, oh yeah, I'll sign the paper. Like you've got like you're like, no, I have to retain this much creative control or do this or do that.
yeah, yeah. And so, and I think that I think that obviously the industry knows what it's doing a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it definitely. I think that
Yeah, they've
getting
done all right.
outside people, yeah, but to get outside people in and like and to like help. I'm not like against that or anything like that, but it's just like I feel like it's just like there's people who are going in and they're basically just have these songs written for them and it's like they get to the studio and they just perform it. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
like they just sing it and then they just and it's like people love them for this thing, but it's like at the end of the day it's like you know it's not even really them.
yeah, yeah,
So
for
that's kind of
sure.
like the thing that kind of seems fake. Like it's like oh yeah, Drake, I love your music. You're so deep. It's like is he deep? I don't know. Like I wouldn't be able
Who
to tell
knows?
you like
Who
there's like
knows?
eight people that are writing on every song. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, um, but
fair enough.
I'm sure he's deep though. Drake, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're deep. Um,
If Drake watches this, I will have made it for sure.
I'm dead. Well, I'm gonna make sure he gets this. So,
All right.
um,
What's next for you, dude?
um,
What's next like couple years? What you looking at?
I don't know, man. I mean, that's at least be able to be full time in music would be the, the goal. But I'm just gonna keep stacking bread, trying to, I've been trying to release a single like every month.
Mhm.
So I just released a single last month, Supply, and then this is the first time I've dropped in like a year or something, year and a half or something. So I dropped Supply, and I have like 80 singles on SoundCloud, pretty much just like ready to just fix up a little bit and just drop them. So I'm just pretty much me dropping those on the side, just kind of trying to like record people, collab with people, like just, build my brand. Um, just keep living and preferably inside of somewhere. Um, you know,
Yeah,
so just the basic things, just keep grinding. But yeah,
I feel
that's
you,
pretty
dude.
much it. I
Plug
just
the
be
socials. Where can the people find you?
Tyno on Instagram, pretty much Tyno pretty much everywhere. So Tyno 21 with an underscore on Instagram. Um Spotify, Tyno, SoundCloud, Tyno, all that stuff. Tyno, like, should be the first one. Hopefully, there's a couple
Hopefully.
other Tynos, but I'm pretty sure I'm the most established right now, at least in this country. Um,
Well, anyway, I mean, we'll put all the links to all that stuff in the description,
all right, word.
anyways. So,
All
um,
right, dope. No,
so if
I
people can't
appreciate you.
find it, you're dumb, basically.
Yeah, that's fine. If it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen.
For sure. All right,
Yeah.
dude. We've been chatting for, with all our technical difficulties, it's been 2 hours, bro. Basically, almost. So
Yeah, definitely. That's insane, bro.
it
Honestly, it
flies.
flew by. It really does fly. Like, I really I must say, I think this is my first podcast. So I'm digging it. I love the vibes. You're a dope dude.
Appreciate
So
it,
I really
man.
appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Yeah, dude. It was a good time. Always good to have conversations and learn new things from cool people that are trying to make it in like the, I'll say, non-traditional ways, figure out the journey, the story. 'Cause everybody's a bit similar in the fact that they got to grind, but also a bit different, like different life circumstances, like different trigger points for different decisions and all sorts of
Everybody's a
stuff.
book,
So
bro.
yeah,
Everybody's a book. It's like you just
100%,
gotta take the time to read them.
100%. That's a great way to end this. All right, guys, we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.